Fragments of Memory, Chapter 1, The Man at the Station. The subway train's screech echoed through the Manhattan night like the city's eternal sigh. David Chen opened his eyes, gradually adjusting to the harsh fluorescent lights of Times Square Station. This was day 847 since he'd woken up here. He counted each day as a way to hold on to what little sanity remained. The cardboard he used as a mattress was damp from tunnel moisture. David sat up, carefully folding his thin gray blanket, a gift from some charity organization. He couldn't remember their name, just like he couldn't remember most things from before waking up in that hospital with his head wrapped like a mummy. "Good morning, New York," David whispered, his voice hoarse after a night breathing the humid air thick with the scent of metal and urine. It was the only routine he'd managed to keep, greeting the city like an old friend. He walked to the nearby public water fountain, washing his face with ice-cold water. In the blurry metal mirror, a 45-year-old face stared back at him with brown eyes that still held a glimmer of someone who once worked in offices. A scraggly beard covered half his face, gray, streaking through black hair. But what set him apart from the other homeless people here were his eyes. They still held a gentleness and refinement that was hard to explain. From his worn coat pocket, David pulled out a brown leather wallet. Not his. He'd found it yesterday evening near the Metro card machines, dropped by some businessman rushing to catch the 647 Express. Inside were credit cards, $340 in Wamj, and a photo of a smiling family at what looked like a ski resort. David had spent the night debating what to do with it. The old him, whoever that had been, would have known immediately. But this version of himself had to think it through step by step, like solving a puzzle with missing pieces. The money could buy him meals for weeks, maybe even a cheap motel room for a few nights. But every time he looked at that family photo, something deep in his chest tightened. He walked toward the information booth where Officer Martinez was starting her morning shift. She'd been kind to him over the past 2 years, never hassling him like some of the other transit police. "Morning, David," she said, looking up from her clipboard. "You're up early today." "Found this yesterday," he said, simply placing the wallet on her counter. "Thought someone might be missing it." Officer Martinez's eyebrows shot up as she opened the wallet and saw the cash. "You could have just kept this, you know. No one would have been the wiser." David shrugged. "Wouldn't feel right. That man in the photo, he's got kids. Probably worried sick." As Martinez logged the wallet into the lost and found, David felt that familiar tug in his mind. Like trying to remember a song you had heard in a dream. There was something about doing the right thing that felt familiar. Natural. Like muscle memory for his soul, the morning rush was beginning. Commuters poured down the stairs like water through a funnel, their faces buried in phones, minds already at their desks in midtown offices. David had learned to read the city's rhythms. He knew in 20 minutes the platform would be packed shoulder to shoulder. He made his way to his usual spot near the downtown platform where a broken tile created a small alcove that offered some shelter from the constant foot traffic. That's when he saw her, a little girl, maybe 8 years old, sitting alone on a bench with her small backpack clutched tight against her chest. She wore a private school uniform, navy blazer, plaid skirt, polished shoes, but tears were streaming down her brown cheeks. Every few seconds she'd glance at her phone, then at the turnstiles, clearly waiting for someone who was running late. David felt that tug again, stronger this time. Without really thinking about it, he reached into his other pocket and pulled out half a sandwich he'd saved from yesterday's meal at the soup kitchen. Peanut butter and jelly, slightly stale but still wrapped in clean napkins. He approached slowly, the way you might approach a frightened animal. "Hey there," he said softly, settling onto the far end of her bench. "You waiting for someone?" The girl looked up, startled. Her dark eyes were red-rimmed from crying, but she had that unmistakable look of a child trying very hard to be brave. "My mom," she whispered. "She's supposed to pick me up." But her meeting went late again. David nodded, understanding more than she knew about waiting for people who might not come. "You hungry?" he asked, offering the wrapped sandwich. "I've got this, but I can't finish it all. Hate to see good food go to waste." The little girl stared at the sandwich, then at David's kind face. Something in his gentle manner, despite his appearance, must have reassured her because she nodded slowly. "I'm Lily," she said, accepting the food with small hands. "Nice to meet you, Lily. I'm David." He smiled, and for just a moment, the harsh fluorescent lights seemed a little warmer. "Tell me, what's your favorite subject in school?" As Lily began to eat and talk about her art class, David felt something shift inside him. For the first time in 847 days, he felt genuinely useful. Not just surviving, but actually needed by another human being. Neither of them noticed the woman in the expensive business suit who had just rushed down the stairs, scanning the platform frantically, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, I know I'm late," Sofia Martinez was saying to her assistant. "The Peterson meeting ran over. Is the car waiting?" "What do you mean traffic?" "Of course there's traffic. It's Manhattan." She stopped mid-sentence as she spotted her daughter sharing food with a homeless man. Every protective instinct in Sophia's body screamed at once. Chapter 2. First Contact. Sophia's heels clicked rapidly against the concrete as she rushed toward the bench. Her daughter was laughing at something the homeless man had said, completely oblivious to any danger. Sophia's mind raced through every news story she'd ever heard about predators and missing children. "Lily," she called sharply. Both Lily and David looked up. The little girl's face immediately shifted from joy to guilt, while David simply stood and took a respectful step back. "Mom, this is David. He shared his sandwich with me because I was crying. And get your things, now." Sophia's voice was controlled but firm. She moved between her daughter and David, her designer handbag clutched like a shield. David raised his hand slightly, a gesture of peace. "Ma'am," she was upset. "I just thought she might be hungry while she waited." Sophia studied his face. Despite his rough appearance, his voice was educated, measured. There was something about his posture that didn't match the stereotype she'd expected. But she was a successful businesswoman because she trusted her instincts, and right now those instincts said to get her daughter away from here. "Thank you for your concern," she said stiffly, taking Lily's hand. "But we're fine." As they walked toward the exit, Lily looked back over her shoulder. "Bye, David. Thank you for the sandwich." David waved, then sat back down on the bench. He watched them disappear up the stairs, feeling strangely empty. For a few minutes, he'd forgotten about being invisible. Chapter 3. Unexpected Returns. 3 days later, David was arranging his few possessions when small footsteps echoed down the platform stairs. He looked up to see Lily walking purposefully toward him, her mother trailing behind at a distance. Sophia had spent those 3 days unable to shake the image of her daughter's first genuine smile in months. Lily had talked nonstop about the kind man who'd shared his food, who'd asked about her drawings, who'd listened when she explained her favorite colors. Against every logical instinct, Sophia had found herself curious. "Hi, David," Lily called out, plopping down next to him with the fearlessness of childhood. "Well, hello there," David smiled. "Back so soon. I brought you something." Lily pulled a wrapped sandwich from her backpack, turkey and cheese on what looked like artisanal bread. "Mom made it." David glanced up at Sophia, who was maintaining her distance, but no longer looked ready to bolt. "That's very kind of you both." "Lily insisted," Sophia said carefully. "She said you were hungry." "I'm always hungry," David admitted with gentle honesty. "But this is more than I deserve." Something in his humility caught Sophia off guard. In her world of corporate negotiations and power lunches, genuine gratitude was rare. She found herself taking a step closer. "Lily says you asked about her artwork." "She's very talented. Told me about a painting of a purple elephant she's working on." David unwrapped the sandwich carefully as if it were precious. "Purple's a brave choice for an elephant." "It's because elephants remember everything," Lily explained seriously. "And purple, it is the color of memories." David paused mid-bite, something flickering across his face. "Is that so?" "Do you remember being little?" Lily asked with the directness only children possess. The question hung in the air. David was quiet for a long moment, staring at the sandwich in his hands. "No," he said simply. "I don't remember much of anything before 2 years ago." Sophia felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. She'd been so focused on protecting Lily that she hadn't considered David might have his own story, his own pain. "What happened 2 years ago?" Lily asked. "I woke up in a hospital. The doctor said I'd been in an accident, but no one came looking for me. So I figured I didn't have anywhere to go back to." The platform fell quiet except for the distant rumble of approaching trains. Sophia watched her daughter's face transform with the kind of pure empathy that adults lose somewhere along the way. "That's really sad," Lily said softly. "Everyone should have somewhere to go." David nodded. "I'm getting by just fine, though. This is home now." Chapter 4, Patterns. Over the following weeks, Lily convinced her mother to stop by the station regularly. What started as Sophia's cautious checking on a potentially dangerous situation evolved into something she couldn't quite name. David, she discovered, was extraordinarily insightful about people. When Lily struggled with a friendship problem at school, David asked simple questions that helped her daughter work through the issue herself. When Sophia mentioned a difficult employee situation, David offered perspectives that seemed to come from deep experience, though he couldn't remember where he'd learned them. "You have a gift for reading people," Sophia observed one evening as they sat together while Lily drew in her sketchbook nearby. "Do I?" David seemed genuinely surprised. "I don't feel like I know much about anything. Trust me, I've spent years learning to evaluate talent. You have instincts that can't be taught." David was quiet processing this information. "Sometimes I have these moments where I'll say something or suggest something and it feels familiar, like I'm remembering how to ride a bike." "What kind of things?" "Like yesterday when you were frustrated about your team not communicating. I suggested having them write brief daily summaries instead of long meetings. You looked at me like I'd said something important, but I don't know why I thought of it." Sophia stared at him. That suggestion had indeed been brilliant and had solved a problem her expensive consultants hadn't been able to crack. Chapter 5. Integration. Within a month, Sophia made a decision that surprised even herself. She offered David a job. "It's just basic administrative work," she explained, though they both knew it was more than a charity. "Filing, organizing, maybe sitting in on some meetings to take notes, but it comes with a small apartment above the office building." David was overwhelmed. "I don't understand why you trust me with this." "Because my daughter thinks you're magic, and my daughter is an excellent judge of character." The transition was awkward at first. David showered and shaved, revealing a face that was younger and more refined than expected. In clean clothes, he could easily pass for an executive who'd taken a sabbatical. But it was his mind that truly impressed Sophia's employees. During his first week, David quietly reorganized the entire filing system, using a method that increased efficiency by 40%. When asked how he knew to do this, he simply shrugged. It seemed logical. He began sitting in on HR meetings initially just to observe, but his questions were so insightful, his suggestions so practical, that Sophia found herself consulting him regularly. "You're not just filing papers anymore," she told him after he'd successfully mediated a complex workplace dispute. "You're essentially functioning as my HR consultant." "Is that bad?" "It's remarkable. David, I think you might have worked in human resources before your accident." The idea seemed to frighten him. "What if I remember everything and I'm not the person you think I am? What if I was someone terrible? Then we'll deal with it. But I don't think you were terrible. Good people don't become bad people just because they lose their memories." Chapter 6. Family Rhythms. Lily had claimed David as her unofficial father figure with the determination only children possess. She saved her artwork to show him, asked his opinion on everything from school projects to friendship drama, and insisted he attend her school play. David found himself learning to braid hair for Lily's costume, helping with math homework, and reading bedtime stories when Sophia worked late. The domesticity felt natural, like slipping into clothes that fit perfectly. Sophia watched this unfold with complex emotions. She'd been fiercely protective of her independence since her divorce, determined to prove she could raise Lily alone. But seeing her daughter flourish with male attention, the right kind of attention, made her question whether her self-sufficiency had come at Lily's expense. More troubling were her own feelings. David's quiet strength, his intuitive understanding of people, his gentle humor. He was becoming important to her in ways that had nothing to do with Lily. "You know he's in love with you," her sister Carmen observed during one of their weekly calls. "That's ridiculous. He's grateful, that's all. And you're in love with him." Sophia was quiet for too long. "Soph, there's nothing wrong with being happy. He doesn't even know who he is. What if he remembers he has a wife somewhere, children? What if everything we've built is based on a lie? What if it's not?" Chapter 7. Fragments. The memories came back in pieces, triggered by unexpected moments. The smell of coffee during a morning meeting made David suddenly remember long conference calls and performance reviews. The sight of Lily's school made him recall something about corporate training programs. When Sophia mentioned a problem with employee retention, David found himself outlining a comprehensive strategy that impressed even her most senior advisors. "I think I worked for a large company," he told Sophia one evening. "Tech, maybe. I keep having these flashes of open office spaces and standing desks." Sophia had been doing her own quiet investigation. A private investigator she'd hired found records of a David Chen who'd worked at Meta's New York office. He'd been reported missing after a car accident 2 years ago, presumed dead, when his body wasn't found at the crash site. She stared at the report for hours before showing it to David. "David Chen, Director of Human Resources," she read aloud, "disappeared after a vehicle collision on the FDR Drive. Survived by parents in California and a sister in Chicago." David held the papers with shaking hands, studying the employee photo that showed a man in a suit who looked like him but felt like a stranger. "I have a family." "You had a family. They think you're dead." "What do I do?" Sophia's heart broke a little. "Whatever feels right to you." Chapter 8, Choices. David spent weeks wrestling with the decision. The investigator had provided phone numbers, addresses. His parents were in their 70s, his sister had 2 young children. They'd grieved for him, moved on with their lives as much as possible. "What if they don't want me back?" he asked Sophia. "What if I'm not the person they remember?" "What if they do want you back?" she replied quietly. It was Lily who helped him find clarity. During one of their evening drawing sessions, she looked up from her latest purple elephant and asked, "David, do you miss your old family?" "I don't remember them enough to miss them." "Do you love us?" The question was so direct, so innocent, that David felt his chest tighten. "Yes, very much." "Then stay with us. We can be your family now." That night, David called his sister. The conversation was surreal. Sarah Chen wept for 10 minutes straight before she could speak coherently. She wanted to drive to New York immediately to bring their parents to reclaim her brother. "I know this is confusing," David said gently, "but I'm not the same person I was before. I don't remember our childhood or family holidays or inside jokes. I'm building a new life here." "But you're my brother. You belong with us." "I belong where I choose to belong, and I choose to stay here." It was the hardest conversation of his new life, but also the most clarifying. He arranged to meet his family to let them see he was alive and well, but he made it clear that his home was now with Sophia and Lily. Chapter 9, Integration. Sophia's business thrived with David as her unofficial partner. His approach to human resources was innovative and compassionate, and word spread through their industry about the company's exceptional workplace culture. "We should make this official," Sophia said one morning, sliding a partnership agreement across her desk. "Martinez Holdings needs a VP of Human Resources." David stared at the contract. "This is generous beyond anything I could have imagined 2 years ago." "You've earned it. Besides, Lily needs college funds, and I need someone I trust completely." "And what do you need, Sophia?" The question caught her off guard. They'd been dancing around their feelings for months, both too cautious to risk the delicate balance they'd achieved. "I need you," she said simply. "Not just for the business, not just for Lily, for me." When David kissed her, it felt like remembering and discovering at the same time. Chapter 10. Full circle. 1 year later, David stood in the same subway station where he'd met Lily, but everything was different. He wore a well-tailored suit, carried a briefcase, and had a Metro card instead of sleeping on the platform. He was there for a reason. Sophia's company was launching a program to provide job training and temporary housing for homeless individuals. David would oversee the program, using his unique perspective to help others who'd found themselves without resources or hope. Officer Martinez, still working, her beat, shook her head in amazement. "Never seen anything like it. Most people, they get a second chance, and they just try to get back to where they were. You built something completely new." "I had help," David said, watching Sophia and Lily emerge from the uptown stairs. Lily ran to him immediately, backpack bouncing full of stories about her day. "How was school, kiddo?" "Amazing, I finished my purple elephant painting." "Want to see?" As Lily pulled out her artwork, David marveled at how much their lives had changed. The painting showed a family of elephants, a large one, a medium one, and a small one, all in shades of purple, holding trunks in a chain. "It's beautiful." "What's it called?" "Remembering Forward," Lily announced proudly, "because sometimes the best memories are the ones you make after you think your story is over." David looked at Sophia, who was smiling at their daughter's wisdom. Above them, the city rushed by with its endless noise and movement, but here in their small circle, everything was exactly as it should be. He'd lost his past, but in return, he'd found his future. Some trades, David reflected as they walked up into the sunlight together, were worth making. Sometimes forgetting is the first step to truly remembering what matters. Epilogue. 2 years later, the subway platform at Times Square looked the same, but David Chen saw it through completely different eyes now. He stood there in his tailored suit briefcase in hand, waiting for the uptown train that would take him to his office at Martinez Holdings. It was early morning before the rush hour crowds and the familiar sounds of the station brought back memories, not of his life before the accident, which remained largely blank, but of those 847 days when this place had been his home. A young woman sat on the bench where Lily had cried that first day. She clutched a cardboard sign asking for help, her clothes wrinkled and her eyes hollow with exhaustion. David recognized that look, the way desperation and hope warred in someone's expression when they weren't sure if they'd survive another day. Without hesitation, he approached her. "Excuse me," he said gently, "are you looking for work?" She looked up suspiciously, clearly expecting some kind of sham or proposition. "I run a program that provides job training and temporary housing. It's legitimate. Here's my card. If you're interested, we're always looking for people who want a fresh start." The woman stared at the business card. David Chen, VP of Human Resources and Community Outreach, Martinez Holdings. "Why would you help me?" David smiled, remembering a little girl who'd shared half a sandwich with a stranger because she thought everyone deserved somewhere to go. "Because someone once helped me when I needed it most." As his train arrived, David handed her a voucher for the program along with his business card. Through the window as the train pulled away, he watched her studying the papers with the same wonder he'd felt when Sophia first offered him a chance. The city blurred past, but David's reflection in the window showed a man completely at peace with who he'd become. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to a photo from last weekend. Him, Sophia, and Lily at Central Park feeding ducks by the pond. Lily wore a purple dress she'd picked out herself, insisting it was the color of new memories. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Don't forget, parent-teacher conference at 3 p.m. Lily's art teacher wants to discuss her college portfolio plans." "Can you believe our girl is already thinking about college?" Our girl. The words still made David's chest warm with gratitude. He typed back, "Wouldn't miss it. Love you both." The train emerged from the tunnel into brilliant Manhattan sunlight. David Chen, who had once been lost completely, now knew exactly where he belonged. He'd learned that identity wasn't about remembering who you used to be. It was about choosing who you wanted to become. And he'd chosen love, purpose, and family. Every single day, he chose them again. Sometimes the best life is the one you never planned for. The end.